Hello and welcome to another edition of Pepperbird Magazine's production of Africa Teaching. I'm J. Rodney Chesson, your host. Today we have a very special show with guests from the African and African American communities of Rhode Island. I have with me here Mr. Kobi Dennis. Kobi, welcome to Africa Teaching.
How are you, sir? Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. Now, Kobi is a community activist. He has been working with the youth and younger people for a long while in Rhode Island. And from the time I've known Kobi, he has been very busy with various initiatives and projects that try to advance or enhance the lives of young people in Rhode Island. So Kobi, the people in Rhode Island don't know too much about Kobi Dennis. Could you take a few minutes to tell us about you?
Sure. First of all, I'd like to say thank you for having me on the show.
It's an honor.
It's a pleasure to be here. My name, as you said, is Kobi Dennis, and born and raised in Providence. A war veteran. I was in the Gulf War. United States Navy, proudly served, 1989 to 93. When I got out the Navy, I came back to Providence, and I just wanted to help improve the community. So what I did is start to work for local agencies, Boys and Girls Club, YMCA, different agencies in the community, and then I decided to branch off on my own some years later. Created my own program, Project Night Vision. Currently, we have about 5,000 young people enrolled, and we're branching off, starting new programs throughout the city.
That's very good. I see you brought a guest with you for this show because when we met yesterday and talk about this interview and how people have to know what Kobi Dennis has been and is still doing in Rhode Island to enhance not only the lives of African American youth, but of people of all communities and diversities and ethnicities. So what are you doing right now? And with this young lady you have with you, how is she involved in your projects?
Well, my good friend who introduced herself is involved in many projects that we do. Unified Solutions in Pacific, which is a program that bridges the gap between nonprofits, local nonprofits. We get together, we teach them up, as we like to say, train them, and then we send them out into the community to do the good that they do. So Miss Ankoma here, who introduced herself and let you know a little bit about herself in a few minutes, she definitely is a huge part of that by helping to facilitate, helping to connect people in the community. And, I think I'd let her expound upon it a little bit.
First of all, let me greet her to the show.
Sure.
Welcome to Africa Teaching.
Thank you.
And since he briefly introduced you, it's not that I didn't want to introduce you. I just wanted him to have the opportunity to introduce you and welcome you to Africa Teaching. So it's an honor to have you as well. And please tell us about yourself.
Thank you. My name is Angie Bannerman Ankoma. Professionally, I am a public health practitioner and social worker. I've been in the field working with children and families for probably about 15 years now. Started primarily working with children in residential treatment facilities and work with families doing couples counseling. And so I was here in Rhode Island. I'm from Rhode Island, native of Ghana, West Africa. My family immigrated from Ghana, West Africa. And so I went to New York City for a couple of years to do some work with African American couples who were living with HIV. And then I came back to Rhode Island to do public health. And so it was really important for me when I came back to Rhode Island to really come back to the community that I was raised in, was born in. And so I've done a lot of work with within the neighborhood and the core city of Providence, but also really looking at how do we give back to the community, how do we empower the community, how do we empower the next generation. And so a lot of the work that Kobi has been talking about with Unified Solutions, and really looking at public health really talks about how where you live, where you work, and where you play and where you go to school impacts your health. And so how do we look at improving the place so that people can be healthier and stronger and vibrant communities. And so Unified Solutions is one example of a project that we've been working on together and really looking to empower the neighborhood, empower community so that they can, do things that are, beneficial to themselves.
That sounds very good. And I've met you at the Salvation Army's headquarters yesterday.
Correct.
Where you were working with youth who are involved with Unified Solutions. That's a very good organization. So how do you all get along together there?
Well, Unified Solutions, what we do is, hence the title, we unify people in our community. And we come up with solutions together that are going to impact the community for years to come. So what better way to do that than to involve the young people that will be living, breathing, and running our communities one day. So things like yesterday you witnessed the car wash. We also had the bike give back. These are the ways that we can show the community that these young people are worth investing in.
So yesterday you were giving the bike back while we were there?
Oh yeah, yesterday with the bikes, we had the situation with a kid, his name is Brandon, he's a junior from the Met School, and what he did for a senior project, a school project, trimester project, he went to the local bike shop and decided to work there for a couple of hours every day during school, learned the trade. He knew nothing about bikes, he just knew he was good with his hands. He learned the trade, learned to respect it, and received parts and donations throughout the school year from different bike agencies. He was taught how to do that, and then within that he assembled 6 bikes, 6 full working bikes.
Wow.
And at the end of his trimester, which was just the other day, he gave me a call and said, I want to donate some bikes back to my community. And that's what happened yesterday. It was amazing to see the kids. They were so joyful. I mean, we take bikes for granted because everyone, we get to an age where we're driving and flying and everything, but these kids, I guess it was kind of like getting a brand new car.
That sounds very good. So, what's your affiliation with the group?
So I do a lot of work connecting them to resources and grants, and being able to identify different types of trainings and curriculums that may help community members. What we realize is that a lot of community members have passion for things, and so being able to connect them to some evidence-based programs that will support them in doing what they need to do, whether it be female empowerment, whether it be health education, or whether it be job training, just being able to connect some of the national resources there with members of the community.
Wow. So are you both employed by Salvation Army? By the Salvation Army?
No, that's what a lot of people may think. A lot of people think, and that's a great question. A lot of people think we get paid for these services. We are actually volunteers. And I think by showing the community that we are taking our extra time to come out and do things for the community, I think it means a lot. It speaks volumes.
Yes.
A lot of the people say, they think, on social media, they say, oh, Kobi, you must get paid for all these jobs. You must have a lot of money. That couldn't be further from the truth. We actually do it for the love of the community, for the respect, and the young people. They actually get to see that it's volunteering is a good feeling. It is great to give back.
So how many hours a week do you volunteer to this program?
This specific program, probably about 4 or 5 hours a week, but there are a couple of other projects. So, Unified Solutions is one, but there are a number of other things that kind of springing off Unified Solutions that, we're also working on as well.
They're all ramifications of this one organization?
Right.
Wow.
Angie's being pretty gracious with the 4 to 5 hours a week. That's probably meetings alone. 4 to 5 hours a week per week. I would say myself, Angie, and a few others probably do more to 15 to 20 hours a week with the different activities that we do, transportation back and forth, emailing. We're not counting all that stuff.
So how do you finance all your expenses? I mean, even if it's coming out of the pocket, it sounds burdensome.
Right.
So how do you finance? I mean, I'm going through the same problem with this show, my magazine. It's all non-profit. I don't get any money. I put more money in it than people subscribing and things like that. That's not doing anything for me.
Part of the Unified Solutions model, and what we're trying to go state to state with, actually we are going to go nationwide with it, is to get nonprofits to be able to get financed. And how do they do that? You team up with a giant, and Salvation Army is a giant worldwide. They have thousands of locations in different centers. So what the Salvation Army is what you would call our fiduciary agent. So they will finance anything that we want to do as long as it's for the community. Now they won't direct pay, so none of us get paid, but they will pay for lunch. They'll pay for transportation, they'll pay for the space, the lighting, so on and so forth. So that's how we survive.
That sounds very good. So, and you can also go out and do your own fundraising.
Correct.
And like what you were doing on Saturday.
Oh, that's great.
So that's been very fantastic. You are doing a very outstanding job. Now tell us about the programs you have for the youth. What kind of programs you have?
Sure. So this summer we'll be running programs, everything. We have a baby cafe, which will be teaching African American women and women in the neighborhood in general the differences in the advantages of breastfeeding. So we're going to have that going on this summer. We're also going to have a youth empowerment group for females and males. We're going to have instrument lessons, musical lessons, from anything from piano to guitar. We are going to have basketball at night. We're also incorporated with the Midnight League. Providence, the Mayor's Midnight League, is also under Unified Solutions. So we're operating that. It's going to be 240 players throughout the city of Providence. It'll happen Tuesdays and Thursdays from 9 to midnight. We also have a feeding program, which will be providing lunch for all of the kids. Anyone can walk in for lunch, or it could be kids in the program as well, adults and kids actually for lunch. So we have a large number of things going on at the Unified Solutions program this summer.
Oh, wow. So do you stay to these programs at 9 or 10 or 12 at night? Oh, why you laughing? You laugh.
It did often require a number of hours after, after your paid work. And so a lot of it is, nights, it's evenings, it's weekends, as Kobi mentioned, it's emails, it's, conference calls, it's all of the above. And, it'd be, a large role that I play is also grant writing and looking at identifying resources and making sure that we're building the evidence to show that if people are empowered and if people are given the opportunity and the space to do what they need to do, that we can become effective. And so utilizing this opportunity to be able to say, now we need to look at additional funding and opportunities as well to be able to provide some additional resources, because I think it's warranted if people are volunteering their time to be able to scale things up a little bit as well too.
Sounds good. So what method do you use to reach out to the various communities? Because you're calling all these nonprofit or communities into unified solution to form a unified base of getting out into the overall community. So how do you reach out to these communities now? Because I saw a diverse group of youth there yesterday, but I didn't see any Africans per se. And I didn't see any Asians, a lot of Asians or all of that. So how do you reach out to all of these various community organization groups?
That's another great question. We have been reaching out through social media. And what's happening here is we are actually identifying the gaps in services in Providence when it comes to youth services. The reason why you didn't see any African descent young people or Asian, or even that many Latino, there wasn't that many. There was a lot of Black American youth there. Why? Because that's who I'm connected to. So by bringing in the different backgrounds of programs, we're hoping to reach a different various community. By doing shows like this, this is going to help us to reach different communities, in particular the African community.
Yeah, I see you already got Angela with this.
That's right.
With her African background. But we're all Africans anyway, so when you talk about African, you have to be very specific to let me know which aspect of the diaspora group you're talking about. But this is a very good project you're doing. And how do people get in touch with you? And what are some of your needs right now before we move on to the next topic?
Sure. The program is centered at the Salvation Army, and that's 386 Broad Street. We're in Providence. We're more face-to-face. We get lost in transition all the time with the emails. I get inundated with emails and phone calls, so on and so forth. We'd rather people come to the building, sign up, see the facilities, find out what their kids or themselves are going to be getting into. I mean, it's easy to send an email and say you want to be included, but when you come, you meet the people, you put the face behind the work, it usually works out better. So that's 386 Broad Street in Providence. Everyone is welcome. And we look forward to meeting a lot of new people this summer.
And what are some of the needs of your organization right now? I know you're writing grants and you're doing other things to look for funding, but what are some of the other basic needs that you think the community can provide for you? I know that the car washes are very good. Supporting your fundraising projects is a very good thing. And anything else you can think about, Angie?
I think we can also always use extra hands, extra people to help with volunteers.
Yeah.
I think being able to connect youth specifically with mentors, and so people who have time during the week to be able to volunteer, whether it be locking up, whether it be helping to serve. I think the more people we have in the community who are serving the community is going to be helpful. We talked about resources. I think anything that you can give.
%.
50%.
50%. Did you know that if you're between the ages of 18 and 35, you're 10 times more likely to die from a car crash?
Increase your odds by 50%.
Just by wearing a seatbelt.
It can make the difference between living or dying.
I know this.
We know this.
Do you?
So click it or ticket. In Rhode Island, it's the law. Seatbelts save lives.
We're back again, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Africa Teaching, a production of the Pepperbird Magazine. I'm J. Rodney Chesson, your host. We left off finishing our topic about unified solutions and what Kobi and Angela are doing there to help the youth in our community. You know very well that we are a struggling community. All minority communities, and especially the youth of the African and African American communities. And we want to alert our community, especially our elders. You have to get involved with our youth. You have to put that money towards their upbringing. If you can help them, if you have to go to work, we understand that people got to work doubles and triples to make ends meet in this country, but you have to take care of your children. And if you can't be there to do it, people like Kobi and Angela are setting up programs and different initiatives and projects that you need to support. Parents need to get involved with. Put that money in the pockets and put that money toward helping organizations in our communities, not free organizations now, not the United Way, not the YMCA or the YWCA. I'm talking about organizations by our young people to help enlighten people of all communities, especially our youth that need guidance and direction. They can't get it all in the school. We can't continue to blame the schools. We can't continue to blame the teachers. We are all working in a community to make this happen. And the parents, the elders, the wealthy folks in our communities, they need to get involved. And we're here to tell you that. So please get involved with the Unified Solution. Did you give your number, Kobi?
Yes, I did, but I'll give it again.
Please.
401-499-7462. Once again, 401-499-7462.
And I'm sure they will appreciate whatever assistance you can render unto them. Financial-wise, volunteering, donating whatever you have to donate to them that you think can advance their programs. Okay, thank you very much. Now, we go on to the community, Kobi. Tell us about the relationship, in your view, of what you think exists now between the Africans and African Americans in Rhode Island.
Personally, I would definitely like to address this, and I've never had the chance to address this situation on television, so I'm excited to answer the question. I believe the barriers put forth between Africans and African Americans has been set up many years ago. I would say, 30 to 40 plus years ago, even starting with applications where we check a box of our nationality or where we're from. So those type of little subtle separations have really been entrenched in the minds of Africans and African Americans. So we now actually believe we're different. Even myself, and I say that wholeheartedly, that I'm not even sure myself as a 43-year-old professional man, where I'm from. So I think indirectly we were told that we're different, and we actually believe it. It has caused an enormous separation between Africans and African Americans, and sometimes crucial. When it comes to funding, we're fighting for money, we're fighting for space, and we're fighting for attention. And if we got together, I think we could be a powerful force to reckon with. But people like myself and Angie, being good friends, we're starting to bring light to that. Her husband owns a wonderful shop and Kobi Menswear. Definitely, we'll have to visit that, and Angie could speak about that as well.
Yep.
And we're bringing African Americans there daily. I mean, they're probably a huge part of his customer base. And while he's there, he's able to teach them about where he comes from and so on and so forth. So a lot of the African American kids are learning from people like Angie and her husband, or different friends of Unified Solutions. So to answer the question, yes, there's a separation, but I believe we're bridging that gap, and we're on a good road.
Thank you. And Angie?
I think let's kind of echoing what Kobi said, that there is a separation, but that separation we didn't make that separation. Separation happened a long time ago when you mix peoples who were coming over, from Africa to the Americas. And so I think it's really looking at how do we see ourselves as from the diaspora, whether or not you're from, the islands, or you're from, Africa, the continent, or you're African who's been here for generations. We need to all see ourselves as one. And so I find that I have the unique position of being a Ghanaian born American, that, I bridge that fence. So I'm not, when I'm among Ghanaians, I'm not really Ghanaian. When I'm among African Americans, I'm not really, African Americans. And so it's that place where I'm in between, but I have the experience of being raised in the U.S. and being able to identify with the African American culture because I was raised here, but also being raised by African parents. And so, I think more of us need to, I think something that other cultures do is they make a strong point of having people from the diaspora connect to their homeland. So I think we really need to look at how do we connect back to a homeland. Whether we don't necessarily need to know whether we're not from Nigeria or Congo or South Africa. Yes, that would be wonderful. But to know that your people at one point came from this place, and to see how your people are empowered, I think is powerful. And so I think we need to have those conversations on why we are one, and also let's go back and let's learn the history about ourselves, whether it be here in the Americas or back in the islands where people are, or back on the mainland. I think the more we can see that history and how it's central and it's how it's really, really one history, then we can really begin to build that divide.
Yes, and that's very true. I too believe that one of the problems that attributes to this divide a lot is the perception that has been placed in the minds of African Americans about Africans. That Africans, are not only different, our culture is totally different. Our behavior is unacceptable, and relating to each other, we hate African Americans. There's that jealousy, and Africans got the whole perception that African Americans hate Africans. Because I've been in the company of some very intelligent and highly educated African Americans who have made the comments that, Africans don't like African Americans. And I was taken aback because for an educated person to say that and generalize of the people of a whole, put the people of a whole continent into a specific generalized category was not only unfair, it was it showed an extent of individual ignorance. That no matter how educated you are, you still have that blinder. That is not you're not open to ideas. You're not open to expanding your knowledge and horizon and things like that. And all those things come into play. And it is not only about African Americans; it is about Africans too. I've met some highly educated Africans who are just as backwards. And I'm wondering, I said, what's wrong with these people? It's up to us to educate our people. Just what you guys doing, coming together, like you said, we're trying to bridge that gap now. But that gap, we have to understand that in order for us to bridge that gap, we have to bridge it in our minds, not only physically. It has to be a mental process as well. So both of them have to come hand in hand. And we I met this guy. We met this guy in Florida during one of our trips, and he was an African. You could see he was an African, but he was born here too, like you, Angela. And he was at the counter, the rental car counter. So I said, "Hey, bro, where are you from?" He looked at me. He said, "Well," I was born here, but my parents and my parents' parents and this and that came back from Africa." I mean, he went through this whole process, or how somebody back there came from Africa, And then I looked at him, and there was this young Caucasian lady standing behind him. So I said, "Do you think if I asked this young lady whether she's from Italy or France, she would give me that long explanation to tell me where she's from?" I said, "Why are black people ashamed to identify with Africa? We come from Africa, and whether you accept it or not, when you're black, you're African."
Right.
Well,
let me intervene in there, Jefferson. Perception is reality, and the perception has been portrayed over the years, whether it's television. I'll never forget the commercial with the African kids with the flies around them from Ethiopia and stuff. For probably 10 years, they showed that commercial. That's all they've ever showed about Africa. We didn't learn anything about Africa in middle school. I didn't learn anything about Africa in high school. I didn't learn about Africa until I was in the military when we went to Djibouti, Africa. And I looked around and said, wow, this is where I'm from. And then I had to read and empower myself. But everyone on the ship in the military, the 250 guys I traveled with when we went to Africa, none of them had respect for it, even the black kids. No one on the ship was African. It was all white men and different nationalities. But no one could tell me where we were. No one could give me any good points about where we were at or where we were going or where we were near. So it was frustrating for me. At 22, I still had known nothing about Africa. And my family is very educated. College graduates, master's degrees, doctorates, all over the place. And we didn't know much about Africa. So perception is reality. If you don't know anything about it, you have to go out there and figure it out. So what we're trying to do is, like you said, bridge that gap with perception. But we also thought of a plan, Angie and myself, to get kids together and actually bring them to Africa.
wow.
And bring them. So it's in the baby and infancy stage. Maybe you guys could be a part of this. Wow. It would be great. We want to take a trip to Africa. Because just imagine how powerful that would be if we took some kids from ages 14 to 18 to Africa. They could come back and share so many stories. We could videotape. We could make CDs of everything of American kids in Africa saying, look at this place. Do you see kids with, flies around them or whatever? Do you see this? No, look at that. There's buildings.
Do you see Tarzan swinging from tree to tree?
Everyone, this is the thing they say. I teach at the Rhode Island Training School as well. And every kid, all the kids from Liberia, when I say they have a hard time, it's bad enough they're locked up in prison. They have a tough time because every joke from the guards to the teachers, to the fellow inmates, is an African joke about them being from the bush, them eating mud pies, and it took me to have to study where the different countries that they're from in order to come back at the people and tell them the truth.
One of the most powerful things in my life is I was born in the United States, and when I was 4 years old, I lived in Ghana for a year. And I didn't go to Ghana again until I graduated from college. And in college, I was an Africana Studies and a psychology major. And so before going into the workforce, I went to Ghana for 3 months. And it was, for all intents and purposes, before then, I was American, African American. And when I went to Ghana and I got off the plane, I could see so many people who had the same complexion as me, who looked like me, who had the same culture, who, the cloth, the food. For like the ride from the airport to where I was staying at, I just was silent. I was just taking it all in. And so I can only imagine, as someone else who may study and learn a little bit more about Africa and the continent, to go there and to really look at how beautiful the culture and the people are, to really look at that you come from something that is really powerful and prideful, and to be able to connect that to some of the stuff that's going on here. We always say that there are a lot of differences within us, but there are a lot more similarities than there are differences within the community. So I always say that we are one. And so we really need to look at and focus on not the gap, but how we are one, and looking at how do we can continue to educate ourselves, continue to educate our children, that we come from lots of rich heritage and culture that you see in the media. You see our culture in the media, and often it's attributed to someone else, but it's really a culture from the African diaspora. So how do we continue to make those connections with people so we can be proud of it rather than look at it negatively?
That's very true. You got anything to add on to that, Kobi?
Well, I just wanted to say that I would go out on a limb and say probably 8 out of 10 young people believe that we are descendants of slaves. And that's something I believed for many years, and that's unfortunate. We've been showing the movie Hidden Colors. I'm not sure if you had a chance to see it, but it's an amazing it's an amazing documentary. I actually have part 1 and part 2, and I'll share that with you. But Hidden Colors is the closest thing. We actually even tried to get into the school departments. They were actually showing it for about 2 or 3 weeks in class in schools, and then it was too deep. The teachers actually, and I won't name the schools, but the teachers were in an uproar because they believed that the information was not to be true, and it showed the kids how we descended from kings and queens, and how we were very powerful people, and how we all are from Africa in some sort, and how even some of the Spanish people from Spanish descent, Latin descent, are from Africa. And so it was almost like a smack in the face to what they've been teaching all these years about, no, little boy, you're a descendant of a slave. Yeah. And so that it's pretty powerful.
But the whole process of changing our mentality comes from our own enlightenment. You see, because with me, I have reached a stage in my life where name calling don't matter to me. You see, I know who I am. I know what I can achieve. I know what my people have achieved. Mm. So when you call me, say I'm eating mud pie, what does that bother me? I know I don't eat mud pie, but I'll fix it for you because I know the ingredients. I come from Africa. I give it to you to eat. But, we have to be above that. Once we educate ourselves and our communities to be above that level, we understand the whole process of freeing ourselves from mental slavery. That's the whole thing that Bob Marley was trying to get across to us. Emancipating ourselves from mental slavery. Okay? On that note, we'll pause for a while. Before we left, we were talking about relationship of the African and African American communities, what people are doing to come together, and some of the problems we have. So we'll continue with this conversation now. Kobi, we finished touching on some of the problems, so let's touch on how the relationship is between the communities, the African and African American community in Rhode Island.
Sure. So the African and the African American community in Rhode Island, as I alluded to, is very complex. I talked to some very educated people. I want to take it to law enforcement, which is a dear subject to my heart lately. I asked one of the heads of the state police, I asked him one day, did he know the difference? And here is a man that leads many, who is in charge of hundreds, and is a public figure. And he honestly told me that he had no idea that there was a difference between an African and an African American. So what I try to tell people all the time is, look at it in a law enforcement way. When you get pulled over, does a police officer ask you if you're African or African American? No. All right? They look at you at face value, I call it. So you need to look at yourself at face value and respect everyone for the culture that they are. So there's very simple ways to explain it to the young people, but it's a hard thing to practice. It's a hard thing to practice, and I think, like anything else, if you're not experiencing it, it's very hard to get across. It's tough to speak about.
And you, Angela?
I think, beginning to shed some light on, our similarities, I think is one area that we need to really focus on. So I think beyond that, I think we're just beginning this dialogue. Actually, I'm part of a committee that's planning the 10th annual African Health Summit. And one of the workshops is going to be Africans and African Americans, differences, similarities, and differences and similarities. I think we need to have this dialogue. We haven't had this dialogue, and I think beginning to have this dialogue, it's one of those things we talk about amongst ourselves. We kind of talk about, amongst within our separate culture, whether it be the African American community or the African community. But we need to get together and talk about it. And how do we begin to face this issue, and how do we begin to unite together? So let's begin this dialogue and continue it and see where it goes.
That sounds very good. So what proposals can you guys put to the table? What initiatives have you thought about?
Solutions.
Well, I wouldn't say solutions, because when you say solutions, man, when the kind of problems we got, you gotta come. We're gonna have branches. Solution A, solution B, but I mean, we gotta start with initiatives. We in our little community. Yeah, we're starting it right now. We're starting it. When you and I talk about a week ago, I told you, I said, man, you do a lot in the community. We need to put that on TV.
Right.
We need to start promoting and let people know what you're doing, because every time I talk to people in Rhode Island who are involved in the community, your name come up.
Right.
People say, Kobi. So you must have a very strong connection with youth and the young people for people to really point out to you as somebody who can galvanize and mobilize people. So that's a positive thing. So we just need to put this thing together where not only one group of people can benefit from your efforts, all people can benefit from your efforts.
So we talked about, and people keep saying, and as you alluded to, initiatives and projects. I'm going to step away from that, because now I'm trying to unify people and provide solutions, and that's why we started Unified Solutions. The project means, a project is something that you're going to start, but there's an ending. An initiative is something that, that's something that you're trying. I want to provide solutions because they're there. We just have to provide them for the people. So my solution to fix this problem is very simple. It's all about joining together, coming together. We need to stop having African soccer leagues. I go by, I see the Africans playing soccer, and I don't see one African American. I want to play soccer. I don't know how to play, but I'd like to be there. So why wasn't I invited? I see the Latino, baseball leagues, things like that. So all this separation we have to stop, and the solution is to integrate in small Rhode Island. How come we're not together? All right, so we have to provide the solutions. We can't keep starting these initiatives and things because they'll fade away. We have to do concrete solutions And yeah, I'm ready to do it because I'm doing it right now. I'm not going to say we're going to. I'm actually doing it.
And what did you think about that?
I think Kobe's spot on when he talked about the different sports and recreation areas in which we can, unite. You mentioned soccer. Looking at the Midnight Basketball League is something I just thought of right now. Can we have a team where there are some African, players and some African American players, and looking at, joining forces that way. Looking at our various events, Africans have their various cultural events, and African Americans have their various cultural events. But we're one culture, so how do we have those events together? One space, planning together, working together. I think the more we can do that, the better it would be to building that, our bridges.
I think one of the initiatives that the African community has taken on to unify all the various groups of Africans is forming the African Leadership Forum. I don't know if you all have heard about the African Forum. I'm currently the vice chairman of the forum, but the forum is where we bring the heads of the various African communities together. Not the whole community, only the presidents and the leaders, where we can sit together and discuss things that we need to do for our community. And all the leaders are on one plan, and we all go out from there and take the word back to our communities. Like you were touching on the different sport leagues. I think every community can still have their own individual sport leagues, but there also have to be a point where we can have one sport league that encompasses every community in one. So people can go to the community train, and all these different teams can register their soccer team into one big sport league of all the different clubs and communities. One of the things I suggested long ago to some state officials, African American state officials, it was 10, 12 years ago, was that we should have an annual event, like a fair, on a Saturday, on a soccer field, where we have all the African musicians and African American musicians and people donating food and things like that. Would just come on that day and just listen to music and eat and drink, and that would just be a yearly event that we all just, and most of the people just dismissed it, but these are the kind of things that bring, that start that process of discussion, of networking and working together, and these are things we need to initiate. So, anything else?
I want to add a little something. I love that idea. Bringing us all together through music, because music is something that does. Our music is very similar in wherever you go. But there is a project in the community that I've been working with called Sankofa Market, and the word Sankofa is a Ghanaian word which means returning back to our roots. And so it's a project that we started about last year was the first year. It's our world market, where we open on a weekly basis during the summertime, and we sell things from around the world, whether it be food, whether it be artifacts. But we began that project only because we want to acknowledge the fact that we do have something in our roots that we want to bring back to light. And when we return to our roots, we see that we have lots of things to be prideful of. And so it's a market that's on a weekly basis. It does incorporate music sometimes, but it's something that it's easily able to scale up into something like a diaspora conference or a music fest like that. But it's something that in the community is beginning to develop and begin to bubble, that we have lots of foods that are native to our culture that we want to see. It may not be local, but yams and plantains, all those things we want to access, so it may not be local, which is a big push right now, but we also want to make sure that it's culturally reflective of the community and the population that is growing in the state of Rhode Island and in the country.
That's a very positive thing, and that's something that groups like yours and the African Leadership Forum and all these groups. I mean, because once you coordinate the heads of the various groups together, you don't really have to reach out to the groups themselves. The leaders have to be in concert with each other, and we have to agree on certain things. Like there are many things in the community that we all do. Like Kobi, you touched on it. Everybody want to have their own after-school program. Everybody want to have their own nursing program. Everybody, and we're all fighting for the little resources that allocated to the whole black community. You know, so you got the Africans coming, the Latino coming, the African American coming, the Cambodians coming, the Asians coming, and we all just coming after their little piece of pie, and everybody got cutlasses and guns and things coming after each other. And you know, that's why what you touch on is, it makes a lot of sense. We have to pool our resources together. And even in the African community now, we're talking, OASA has after school program, a very good after school program. So why should the other African communities have after school program? Everybody could pool around and put all resources in that one program and let them benefit. So those are things that we need to look at. So if you have anything else to add on the community, let's do it now before we round up our discussion.
I just want to say thank you for having the courage to have a show like this. This is something that we probably need a little more of. We need some more shows where people are able to express their true feelings without a script. I actually accepted your invitation to do this show because you didn't give me pre-questions and things like that, because this is what I like. This is how you get honesty. When you just ask the questions on the spot. If I wasn't living what I do, if I didn't believe in what I do, I wouldn't have been able to answer them effectively. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Kobi.
Appreciate you.
Angela?
Thank you very much for the opportunity again, and thank you, Kobi, for inviting me. I think the topic, I echo what Kobi says. I think the topics were relevant. It has me thinking about some other things that we kind of need to get back to and working on. And again, it puts a little fire under our butts to kind of really think about how we can work closely in the community and kind of build a community from the diaspora. So I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, and thank you. And you don't feel strangers, because my co-host, who usually hosts these African and African American shows with me, Mr. Ekman Babla, is not here today, but he will come. He will be here again, and we can all sit down with a much larger group and have an in-depth discussion about things that we need to look at for our community, because we can't keep blaming other people. If we want to blame them, we have to take the initiative, let them stop us from achieving what we want to achieve. Then we have reason to blame them. But the past is the past. We've been through slavery. We have the opportunity to become educated now. Our youth got to take advantage of that opportunity. We can't keep complaining when we have schools, we have different things we have to reach out to. We have to make our parents responsible and accountable. Our elders have to be involved with the advancement of our communities. And all these things is incumbent upon us to make those positive changes. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to express our thanks and appreciation to the both of you. And to our famous camera woman, Miss Karen McLaurin Chesney. You did a fantastic job. And we want to say, we'll be back. Watch out for Africa Teach In. We're not done yet. Kobi has a lot of programs, he and Angela, that we're going to touch on. We're going to look at the after-school program. We're going to look at what they're doing with the bike sales and get into more detail about that. And we'll be roaming throughout the community with our cameras this summer, trying to catch people in action, doing things to uplift the community. Stay tuned and know that the Pepper Bird magazine is here to serve you. Africa Teaching. Have a good day. Thank you.